we live in an age of big data and the need for scientifically literate, numerate politicians, and rather vague responses from Boris Johnson about I didn't fathom, I didn't twig, I didn't go to the meetings, and a kind of lack of engagement, perhaps.
Fair to say you were a member of Independent Stage. You're a critic of the government and how it handled the pandemic. What did you take from Boris Johnson's evidence? Did you learn anything new? Did it confirm what you suspected? What was your initial view of it all?
I did learn new things. So my take on the whole inquiry has been, as a scientist, that it shouldn't be and mustn't be primarily about finger pointing or blame. It's got to be about improving health policy and how we do better next time, because there will be a next time. I mean, to be fair to the 230 million bereaved families and the 1.9 million with long COVID. So even with that frame of reference as somebody who's not looking at the sort of salacious personality politics, but trying to look at the science, I think there were a few kind of jaw drop moments for me yesterday when I got this kind of picture of how it was all happening. So one keynote moment for me was that sentence that started when he was asked about the rude word he wrote on the top of the long COVID briefing, and he said, I regret, I should have realized. And we all thought the sentence was going to end, I should have realized that I might doom millions of people to disability. And it ended, I should have realized it might be published one day. And that was a very sobering moment for me, and I think for the families protesting outside.
But it's
things like that. Yeah,
it's an interesting point about long COVID, Danny, because even in the area where people who suffer from long COVID, and no one doubts that, there is still scientific dispute over the extent of it, who should be classified as having long COVID, what long COVID precisely means. Even in that area, which is semi-straightforward, there is scientific dispute. We've heard John Bell saying he didn't really believe long COVID was a helpful term at all on this program. And I guess my point is, how can Boris Johnson possibly make clear-cut judgments when there's not, even in this area, a clear-cut consensus?
Well, I think that long COVID is a work in progress, and it's a longer discussion. The definition of long COVID isn't doubt about whether it exists; it's doubt about the molecular pathways by which one defines it. But I know the point about Boris Johnson was that we had endless phrases yesterday, didn't we? Like I didn't twig, or I didn't fathom, or we saw the data, we didn't believe it. And to me, the heart of the matter was perhaps that kind of thing that Patrick Vallance was bringing up, that there was lots of data being presented. We live in an age of big data and the need for scientifically literate, numerate politicians, and rather vague responses from Boris Johnson about I didn't fathom, I didn't twig, I didn't go to the meetings, and a kind of lack of engagement, perhaps.
That's an interesting point. The other point he said, which I thought may even be true, is that he had no other tool but lockdown really to deal with the pandemic, and because of the failure of the preparatory system, because we didn't have test and trace to any degree in the way that, say, South Korea did. He might have even been right there, Danny, mightn't he? And that's not good for anybody. If really the main policy lever he can pull is lockdown, we're in a terrible position as a country.
Yes, I mean, so it goes back to what I said a moment ago, that I see this inquiry as a good thing and an important thing and a useful thing, and being rather well managed by Baroness Hallett. And the point is that we will face this again in the next 5 or 10 or 15 years, probably with another coronavirus. And if you'd lost 230 million people in a tsunami or a terrorist attack or whatever, you'd think damn hard about how to do better next time. And that's what we need. And for me, that's what this is really all about.
Do you feel confident? I mean, do you feel confident that just because we'll have a different prime minister next time, we get a better outcome? Or do you think the systemic problems are such that serious change is needed?
I do see some systemic problems. And one of the things is the thing I just mentioned, that we live in a high-tech, data-rich, big data society, and we do need to elect the politicians that can speak that language and engage with that data. And I feel like we kind of lacked that.
That's interesting. But you can't pick the politicians, and really we can't even as a nation pick the prime minister specifically with our electoral system. So we're going to always end up with politicians with different levels of numeracy. That presumably means there've got to be better systems in place for them to work with as well.
Yes, so exactly that. So and I think Patrick Vallance was alluding to that in his evidence, wasn't he? It's about that interface and the workings of that interface and the seriousness of engagement of that interface. And I feel like there was something lacking there in the exchange.